Welcome to Surviving Roots, the podcast where we journey through the complexities of our emotions together. I'm your host, Cari Fund, and I'm here to guide you on a path of self-discovery, understanding, and healing. In each episode, we'll explore a range of emotions and experiences, from navigating grief and trauma to managing stress and anxiety. Through candid conversations, expert insights, and practical strategies, we'll uncover the tools you need to navigate life's emotional landscape with resilience and grace. So, let's embark on this transformative journey together. Take a deep breath. Allow yourself this time. This podcast is for you. Hi, everyone. I am so excited for today's guest. She is a woman of many talents. Leigh Esposito is an author, coach, tarotist, and former attorney. She recently released her debut novel, The Godmother. Through her popular and highly entertaining social media platforms, Leigh explores everything from Italian culture and tarot to empowerment, feminism, and motherhood. Leigh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I just want to dive in because there's just so much to chat about.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's pull up our sleeves and do it.
Right.
First, your novel last year, I bought it. It's beautifully written. You are a very talented storyteller. Please tell us what inspired you to write The Godmother and how did you find the writing process?
Okay, great question. So I, as a Sicilian American, one of the biggest jokes I always hear when I tell someone I'm Sicilian is, is your family in waste management? Is your family in the mafia? In my case, which is not super rare, my family does come from a mafia town, which is where Lucky Luciano came from and Frank Sinatra. It was a sulfur mining town. The mafia always does well in poor places. So, somebody in your family is in the mafia in some way, but not the way, they're asking in like a Tony Soprano way. And there's, it's kind of funny if you're Italian, but if you're not Italian and you're, someone's not Italian, that. So this is a joke that I've heard a lot, and I'm sure you've heard it too. You're Sicilian American as well.
Yes.
But especially for people don't read as Sicilian. So like you and I both, and even though I have an Italian last name. So there was that aspect to wanting to write a character that subverts the mafia narrative, having been accused is a heavy word of being in the mafia my whole life. I imagine this character who uses that suspicion that she's in the mafia and leverages it for good.
Yeah.
And along those same lines, as a huge fan of The Godfather, I couldn't believe nobody had made like a feminist answer to The Godfather featuring a powerful Sicilian woman.
Isn't that amazing?
I couldn't believe it. I mean, there have been some books where women end up having to take over the mafia because their husbands are in jail.
Right.
That's not what, this is about a woman who's powerful in her own right. Is she or is she not in the mafia? That's like one of the things you discover in the book, but she's certainly thought to be.
Yeah.
I just hadn't encountered a story where someone identified as Sicilian American, a woman, was powerful outside the home.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. I think it's a perfect example. Did you read that book, Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert? I think the idea, the universe went into your beautiful brain and you, boop. And so I'm so happy that you did because the book is phenomenal. You're a brilliant storyteller. You really are.
Thank you so much. And I got chills when you mentioned Big Magic because I was reading that right before I started writing the novel. I'm still having chills.
Now you're giving me chills.
It's a story that Liz Gilbert recounts about how, I think it's Ann Patchett. Had ended up writing a novel that Liz was planning to write. And it was so similar plot wise. And I just said to myself, I have to sit down and write this because somebody's going to execute this idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. Sometimes after reading that book, I have so many ideas now. And I think maybe I should tell myself or remind myself, not every idea is a big magic idea because they just start to come. I'm like, somebody's going to take it. Somebody's going to take it. And next thing I know, I have like 50 novel ideas. And I'm just like, wait a minute, I'm still trying to write this other book. But I'm so happy that you did. Oh, you did give me chills. Well, Being Italian plays a significant role in your identity. And how has your Italian American heritage shaped your perspectives on the way you handle your life and challenges?
My ancestors who came here, and this is not, when I say ancestors, that always sounds kind of remote, but it's my great grandparents. I think what really shapes me the most about being Italian is considering what they did to bring us to America and how they paid these sort of debts that I'm a beneficiary of. They came here with nothing. They left a society that was not very supportive of the part of Italy they were from, Southern Italy. Southern Italy is kind of like the redheaded stepchild of Italy.
Yeah.
And just coming here and working as seamstresses and cobblers and school lunch ladies and, just thinking about that anytime something seems hard is one of the biggest things for me. I mean, being Italian, I've always put family first, which is why my career as a lawyer was doomed. Because when you're an attorney, it's like work comes first, client comes first. And for me, it was like, if somebody got sick, if somebody needed me, if my grandparents wanted to celebrate their anniversary on a trip, it's like, bye,
Yeah.
So family definitely was first. And I've always been very proud of being Italian. I didn't really always know what it meant until I started researching the book. But I think like the most powerful thing is that is my identification with the Italians who left in the Great Migration, early 20th century, and the America that they arrived at, which was not an America that had any prioritization of retaining your country of origin's culture or language, having to quickly assimilate and find their way, and just that being an inspiration for me, again, whenever something seemed challenging.
You brought up something I want to touch upon about growing up in an Italian family, which I did as well, about family coming first. It's all about the family. And, coming from where I'm coming from, when my family, generational trauma, toxic ties, and things like that, it's a very interesting place to be, because you're trying to navigate be supporting of the family. Every family comes first, but then also realizing that there needs to be some cycles and some generational trauma that needs to end, or you're just, as myself, going to keep perpetuating it into the next generation. So, coming from an Italian family myself and understanding the complexities of, big Italian family ties, do you believe, and when you agreed to be on this podcast, this is one question I've just been dying to ask you, because you were all things Italian. Do you believe blood is thicker than water when it comes to family drama or toxic relationships, like when those are involved? Is blood thicker than water?
No, it's love. It's love that's the thickest. Because my grandmother, I had some conversations with people, like, my friends are into true crime podcasts, and somebody said, would you turn in your child if they committed a crime? And, let the authorities be warned now. No, I would not. And my grandmother used to always be like, I will bury the body. Like that was because I was her blood.
Yeah.
I'm her blood, but like she adored me. And I have other family members who are close blood relationships that have had, my relationship with my grandparents was completely uncomplicated and pure. But I have other close blood family members who would absolutely be the first to turn me in. I think it's like, I really think it's the love, which can come through the blood, but I've definitely, friends are very powerful.
Yeah.
In your life, and that's not blood. So there's also we have blood, but we also have souls that have had souls journeys.
Yeah. And good point.
So to say that the soul, you and I could have had a soul's journey that we don't technically share blood, but that our souls have been connected. So there's that too.
Oh, I love that. Well, you are the only Italian that I've asked that question to. I've been waiting because I know if I asked my family, they would say, of course, blood is thicker than water. Like, what are you doing? How could you be doing this and talking about certain things? And that brings me to the point, like what you're doing, from your platforms to your writing. Creative and courageous, by all means. You express your thoughts completely from your heart and your soul. And I don't think you really even look back. You say you say what's on your heart, you say what's on your mind, and that's really impressive, and it's courageous. And with so many opinions that could be circulating around, maybe they are, maybe they are not, with your family. How do you navigate the need for validation in your life to maintain these creative endeavors that you're doing? Do you self-validate yourself? Do you look for validations from your family? Do they like what you're doing?
Yeah, so they won't be listening to this anyway because that's supportive. So I can say my family is my father, my father's very supportive. Like I've got some family members who are very supportive, but I actually think that family can encounter some of the most challenges in being supportive if they have the malocchio. There's kind of like, why does she get to do that? Why does she have all these people listening to her on Instagram? Why does she, so, and my Instagram journey, which coincided with shopping my novel through my agent, which I subsequently ended up forming a publishing company and publishing it myself. But when it was out with the agent, that's when I started my Instagram journey. And my Instagram followers, I don't even know if they're followers, but people I encountered through Instagram taught me how to know where the real validation comes from.
That's amazing.
Because I have a lot of detractors, and I think that's probably true for a lot of people. I think it's just, you put yourself out there and people are in their house and it's easy to criticize things that you say. I mean, one of the biggest criticisms I get is you're not Italian.
I was just going to say, I love reading these. Like, it's like, which one is going to say you're not Italian?
You're not Italian. For your listeners, this is an issue that comes up for Italians. I actually heard that it comes up in other European countries that have American diasporas, which is the Italians who live in Italy just bristling at the notion that Italian Americans are Italian at all.
Yeah.
They just don't see it that way. And they have a lot of issues with xenophobia in their country that they need to take a look at that I think are underpinning this resistance. But so about validation, I have learned that how to hone in on the reality of, what's important about your assessment of what you're doing. I wrote a book that I was very proud of that got a literary agent, and it went out to a ton of publishing houses and it didn't get an offer. And the reason I published my book is because when I finally realized it's good, and they're wrong, and I'm going to put this out before somebody else puts out a feminist Godfather, a rollicking female, it's like a rollicking story of female friendships and magic and, just kind of totally different. Godfather takes itself very seriously. And this book is fun, but it also subverts that narrative. And so I learned that what really matters is if you have discernment, which I feel like really kind of comes only after the age of 40, just in my opinion, and you know that you've done a good thing, that's enough.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. And also at the end of the day, you have this dedicated community, dedicated following. And like a lot of the times you don't really sometimes need the publishers because you have your people. Do you know what I mean? Like you put your baby out into the world and you have your people. So I think I understand the whole processes of writing my book as myself. But in the meantime, while you were, shopping it around, here come all of your people. And a lot of, I think, authors today have to ask themselves at that point, do they want to go traditional publishing route, or did they want to lean into their people and their community who are supporting them, every day? So good for you. Good for you.
It's a good
I do want to give your dad a shout out because I have met your father at one of your book signing events, and he really is a lovely man. And since I've met him, he was so proud of you at your book event, and I see him on all your social media, and you've got a good one. So
good dad.
I think when you have even one of those, like, it makes up for any kind of other family dynamics or issues. Okay, so I want to explore this whole tarot card coaching because I know nothing about it. Okay, so you have like these themes of mysticism and empowerment in the Godmother, and you've mentioned your coaching and your writing. Can you share like what made you go into this beyond like just research for your book? And also, are there any memorable experiences or insights that you've gained from like your readings? Like,
Totally. So, okay,
tell
great.
us.
Well, for tarot specifically, I was researching the book. The main character is Sicilian American. She's the godmother, but she goes back to Sicily with a young Cuban psychic who is the niece of her mentor. Her mentor was Mary Fortune, this notorious Cuban bruja in Miami who is like the astrologer to the stars and all these things. And she's based on a real character who I used to go see.
That's
And
amazing.
so in the book, the godmother goes off with the young Cuban psychic, and it's kind of like this buddy, there's like a buddy comedy aspect to it, even though there's serious stuff too. And this character, the younger character, her name is Isabel, she reads tarot among the other divinatory media that she uses. So when I wrote the novel, I just did some online research, and kind of when the character read cards, I would just use the research online. But I like, I've learned a lot in my life from the fiction I read, so I don't want to mislead people. I want to make sure that, if they are learning about tarot or encountering it through my story, that they're getting the right picture. So I
Right.
took a course in tarot from a leading expert named Mariah Oler. She's wonderful, and she's the Today Show expert on tarot.
Oh, wow.
Then I ended up finding I had a gift for it, so then I took the professional course and started doing the readings.
Yeah.
And I can tell you about that a little bit, and I'll explain about the coaching, which is that one thing I did enjoy about being an attorney was just advising people generally. My clients would, because there's a lot that goes into being a litigant besides the actual paperwork. There's real world extra court strategies. And so people started to come to me for all different kinds of advice, also for creative projects. I used to do a lot of consulting on screenplays and stuff like that. So I realized that I actually am a coach. And so I started to hold myself out as one.
Okay.
Work with people on things. Anything I have done, I coach on. So I created a social media platform. I wrote a novel. I haven't written, well, I actually have written a screenplay, but with my creative instincts from being an artist and all these things, I also coach women who are going through divorces on all the strategies, not only having to do with dealing with their ex, but also with managing their own lawyer, which is a very important thing to know how to do. So it's kind of like, it also was the process of writing the book about this powerful woman who protects other women. I don't know in what way this happened, but I started to embody her. So that's kind of, and it's what I wanted. I wanted to be like that. I wanted there to be a person like that, and I wanted to be like that, and it started to happen.
I feel like you just manifested everything in your life through writing the novel. I mean,
Totally.
if this isn't the perfect example of what manifesting can do, I don't know what is.
Yes. My manifesting really comes through. I tell people, like, with manifesting, sometimes they get the advice is kind of awkward, like just believe that you're going to get it. And
Yeah.
what I talk about is kind of like get into a magical thinking, like not just kind of like writing it down and saying like, I command the universe that blah, blah, like get into magical thinking, like you have to feel emotional. Get
Yeah.
yourself excited, get emotional about it. And if it's something that you don't believe at all, you have to work on that. You can't
Yeah.
just say it and believe it. Like you have to take steps that will help you believe, because it's
Yeah.
belief, like that certainty that precedes the result, that I think makes it happen.
I completely agree. I mean, a lot of the times when people like if they hear you say, manifesting or doing vision boards or doing readings and things like that, they think it's like, no, you just have to do the hard work. Well, yes, of course you have to do the work, but it's just, I don't know. It really is a magical experience. I mean, every morning I'll look at my vision board and I don't wish for it. I literally close my eyes and I envision myself in all of those things that I hope to achieve. And you just put yourself out there and believing in yourself. I mean, I just feel like there are all these inside tools that honestly I want to embody so I can teach my children that, you have to work hard. Hard work is a huge part of it, but also it's the belief in the things that you want to see with your life, the things that you can do. And it is sort of just dreaming and having that magical thing. And it adds joy to the whole process. I mean, work is hard work, hard work is work. But imagine if people allow themselves to add some magic and to feel the joy in the process. I just feel like, dreams can be fun.
Yeah, it's daydream and like I used to give these fake interviews when I got out of the shower when I was writing the book.
I love that.
I like talking to Oprah. I think I talked about that at the book signing, but I would get myself really excited and I would like clap for myself. I mean, I like, and put on, like simply the best,
Yeah. But a lot of people, like, I feel like Gabby Bernstein, I think, has said that, like in a talk when I went to Hay House last year or something like that, that she used to go and give free, like be a speaker at free engagement. She was in PR. She wasn't even a speaker, but she wanted to be one and she believed that she could change lives. So she went out there and she spoke. And I mean, look at it now.
It worked.
Look at everyone now. Oh, I love it. Okay, I want to ask a personal question if I can.
Yes.
The theme of my podcast is turning pain into power and our potential, letting it propel you forward and really leaning into one's potential. Can you share any instance in your life where you turned a painful experience into a positive outcome?
Yes. This novel.
Just one.
There's one that's right to mind. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, like my first marriage, from that experience, I got my son is one easy kind of like a softball one, but this novel would not exist if it weren't for a very sad personal trauma to a very important relationship in my life, a person in my life who was very, fundamental to my life, who's still alive. And, I don't want to speak about that person because they're alive and I love them so much. But if I hadn't experienced this loss, the novel wouldn't exist.
Okay.
And I think that because the loss, the emotional loss underpins the godmother's experience, the godmother's loss of her mother, who has disappeared under mysterious circumstances. It's just very bizarre kind of, she's sort of a ghost in the book. We don't know what happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
And so this loss in my life, I always say, like, if I had been perfectly happy, if a whole series of things hadn't happened, from my parents' divorce when I was 25 to this loss that I'm referring to and all these things, I don't know if I ever would have become an author, because I feel like when I was really happy with no problem at all, I would just kind of be like skipping around,
Yeah.
And then it's when something happens that you just have to process that. For me, what spurs me to create.
Yeah, I think sometimes, when we allow our pain to let us pause, it's in that silence. If you really allow yourself to sit in it, there's so much can come from it, so much growth. I mean, I would not be here with this podcast, Surviving Roots. I would not be, connecting to my community. I would not be writing this book. I would not be doing any of the things I've been doing for the past year and a half if I finally didn't realize that my pain actually is my purpose. The Cari that was like skipping down the streets, like you're saying, happy in her Manolos in New York City, making money and working in the beauty industry. It was all just a facade that I just kept pretending that I was fine. And if all of the things, if I look back at my life, from loss and pain to my toxic parents, I mean, I sort of just dealt with it, which allowed me to heal from it, and then turned up the volume on my voice. And this has been besides my children, like, this has been really my biggest purpose, is to just help others feel validated and seen. Not as a coach, not as a therapist, just as a person who survived their toxic upbringing and really created the life and the family that they've always dreamed of. I just want to, inspire people to know that they have a choice. We have a choice every day, and good for you. Bravo for you for taking all of these things in your life and creating this beautiful book and this platform. I mean, I can't get over your platform. Like, I just have to know, like, do you sleep? Like, every day I like open up Instagram and I mean, it's just one entertaining after the next. Like, you just can't get sick of you. You just want to know, what's she going to say today? Like, what is your creative process with your social media?
Well, if
Does your
anyone,
mind ever shut down?
no, unfortunately,
Yeah, I
we
was
have to
thinking.
go the other direction. We have to bring that thing in sometimes. But, I've been doing this on Instagram for about 3 years now. And I think 2.5, maybe 2.5, 3 years. And I've learned from the process. And if anyone's listening and thinking, I would like to do, what these two women are doing, just know that I mean, if you care to scroll all the way down to the first reels that I put out, they're poorly lit. They're not particularly insightful. They're kind of trite. And, they were what I thought I needed to do, kind of like little gags about being Italian American and,
Mhm.
stuff, because I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't know my culture as well as I know it now either. So I think, like, I have a book that I just started because I had a note open on my phone where I would put the reels ideas, but now I have a book because I have a subscriber section now too with more in-depth stuff, tips, tools, whatever it is. So I have
Amazing.
content and then the subscriber content. And, then things will come up. Like we have this new saint that's being canonized in Catholicism who's a millennial and he's so sweet and inspiring and sort of like the saint of the internet. So stuff like that comes up where he's going to be canonized. So I just will do a reel off the cuff. But I'm
Yeah.
always thinking of an angle now. And that's a way that my mind did not always do that. I learned that from, if you are going to have a platform, and this because you have a very robust platform as well, you have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Definitely Instagram and things like it are relentlessly hungry beasts that you must continue to feed. So you have to keep thinking about angles and new insights and, all even just around the same constellation of issues, finding new ways to talk about
Yeah.
stuff in.
It's true. You have to feed the beast, it seems almost daily. But if you do it with joy, and I think, you brought up a really good point considering what you said about your very first reel into where you are now. I think with time, the imposter syndrome just gets a little quieter. The inner critics just starts to get a little quieter because our voices get louder. I think we learn by putting ourselves out there and being authentic. See, that's the key. You're so authentic, not doing what you think people want to see. You're doing what, you want to say. I think the authenticity, the vulnerability, and just having joy, are just really the key things to keep it going. Just also for our mental health, because you got to feed the beast daily.
Yes, absolutely.
You really do. Okay, I want to ask one last question, because I know during the holidays you put up this Christmas tree, and then the Christmas tree seems to still like stay a part of like your household, like through Valentine's Day and maybe even Easter. And there's a lot of baking in pajamas.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I want to know, why does the Christmas tree stay up like past the new year? And what is your favorite Italian baked good? Like your favorite, is it a family recipe? Because I love the holidays, and honestly, you do it well.
The thing that, I mean, this is like, talk about the human consciousness. Like, this is crazy because I'm setting up a YouTube channel. People have been telling me you should have a YouTube channel.
YouTube's where it's at right now. Go to YouTube. It's all
Got to get it going. Like my Christmas stuff, because I really love all this stuff with Christmas. I love Christmas pajamas. I have tons of them. I work with Bedhead Pajamas is one of my favorite collaborators where I'm always baking with their pajamas on and other pajamas. And cookies are one of my favorite desserts, regardless of what time of year it is. So Italian cookies, obviously, if you're listening to this, you've seen those big trays that we put out. And really, in America, there really is an Italian American cookie tray. It's not just Italian cookies. There are like, you'll always find one of those peanut butter cookies with a chocolate Hershey kiss on it.
That's on our cookie tray. Yeah.
On the tray. So, and then the Christmas tree. So like, Christmas trees started as a pagan thing. It's in the dead of winter when all life has receded into itself. Here's this evergreen tree that symbolizes the spring return will come. So to me, it's just, I don't even understand how people can rip the tree away from themselves, right after Christmas when you're about to enter like lackluster January,
Yeah.
February, which are super dark months, which aren't even buoyed by a wonderful holiday.
Yeah.
So I keep it up. And then, when it gets towards the end of the season, even I get sick of it because I'm like, partially because I don't think I have good enough decorations for like my girlfriend decorated my tree for Valentine's this year with fantastic stuff.
It looked amazing.
So cool what she did. She was like, I had been sick for a couple of weeks and you need friends like this. She came into my house with like thousands of dollars of custom
Oh my
things
God.
and designed my tree for me. But all those things symbolize comfort. And, my favorite Christmas cookie, one of my favorite Christmas cookies is a simple chocolate crinkle cookie.
Yeah.
If you with like a little bit of hazelnut, then you can kind of Italianicize it. I've come to like cookies that have almond paste. I did not always like those. Lemon ricotta cookie is amazing, but I cannot choose. Can you choose between your children?
No, I cannot. I like all cookies.
I can't. I only have one, so I don't have to choose between my child. But I can imagine if I had another one, I couldn't choose, and that is how.
Yeah, no, I like all cookies as well. Well, I have to say, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Honestly, we have to get that coffee soon because there's just not enough time. You are just a very interesting bird and you're doing so much and you are doing it well. And it should be commended. So thank you so much for joining us and everyone today for listening.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Surviving Roots. Let's continue this conversation as a community. For more updates about the show, remember to subscribe on iTunes to leave a review. Also, there will be some special bonus footage from the show on Instagram @cari.fund. I'll see you there.